In the Gospel of John, chapter 9, we again find Jesus healing on the Sabbath, one of 7 distinct occasions the Lord chose to heal on the Sabbath, according to the pulpit commentary. This also marks the last explicit reference by John to Moses when the Sanhedrin insults the healed man by saying that he's a disciple of Jesus. But we are disciples of Moses. We know that God has spoken to Moses, but we do not know where this fellow comes from. The Jews said this because back in John 9, verse 16, they had accused Jesus of not keeping the Sabbath. John himself reached the same conclusion back in John chapter 5, verse 18, because in the previous verse 17, Jesus said to the Jews, "My Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working." The New English Translation Bible footnote on John 5, verse 17, says the rabbis taught that the Sabbath privilege was peculiar to God, and no one was equal to God. In claiming the right to work even as his Father worked, Jesus was claiming a divine prerogative, that is, authority, as John 5:18 goes on to state explicitly for the benefit of the reader who might not have made the connection. For this reason, the Jewish leaders wanted even more to kill Jesus because he had broken the law of the Sabbath. The Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels, remarkably, the Johannine Jesus concedes that he works on the Sabbath, John 5:17, precisely what the law prohibits, but claims that he is merely acting as God his Father does. The ESV Study Bible on John 9:14 says, Jesus' frequent conflicts with the Jews over the Sabbath suggest that by his coming, he is changing the Sabbath requirements. See John 5:17. In the Old Testament, the Sabbath was known as the Lord's Day, that is, the Lord, Yahweh, the one God of Israel. That's why God calls the day my Sabbath. But in Mark chapter 2, Jesus says the Sabbath was made for people, not people for the Sabbath. For this reason, the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. This means that followers of Christ now have authority over the Sabbath because Jesus himself has taken power and authority over it. After all, this is what the title Lord means in this context. Christians are now free to define the purpose and proper application of the day of rest, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, or any other day of the week. Again, the point of Jesus' given lordship over the Sabbath is that he and by delegation his followers can now legitimately choose when to keep it or not. As Paul makes clear in Romans 14, verse 5, one person decides that one day is holier than another. Another person decides that all days are the same. Let every person make his own decision.